I've worked as a middle school janitor for nearly 20 years, and I've seen plenty of weird things, graffiti, break-ins, even a goat once during a senior prank. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what started happening this past March. And if you're reading this, I need you to understand, this isn't a ghost story, not in the traditional sense. It's worse, because it's real, and it followed me home. It started the day after the school's art festival was canceled. The kids had spent weeks working on murals, chalk collages, and sidewalk art for a spring showcase. But due to some last-minute district safety concerns, God knows what, everything was shut down. On Monday, the kids were told to erase the sidewalks and remove all their outdoor pieces. They did, though not happily. By Tuesday morning, all the sidewalks were clean. By Wednesday morning, they weren't. I remember unlocking the south gate just after 6 a.m., as I always do, thermos in one hand, walkie in the other. Everything looked normal until I walked past the east courtyard near the old gym building. That's where I saw it. A chalk drawing. Not the kind of pastel, colorful stuff kids usually make. This one was done in stark white. A single figure. A stick figure, yes, but something about it made my skin crawl. It had no arms, long, crooked legs, and a smiling mouth that stretched across the entire oval-shaped head. Not drawn with flair, but with jittery, uncertain strokes, as if someone had done it very fast, or with trembling hands. Worse, it was standing right in front of the emergency exit, facing the door like it was waiting to be let in. I took a picture with my phone and radioed it in. I figured some kid had snuck in late the night before. Principal Greaves agreed and told me to clean it up. I hosed it down before the buses arrived. But the next day, it came back, not the same drawing. A new one. This time, it was closer to the main doors. Same stick figure, same distorted smile, same lack of arms. But now it had feet drawn at an awkward inward angle. And someone had added a second stick figure, smaller, beside it. A child, the same chalk style, still no color, just white against the gray concrete. I reported it again, cleaned it again, and again. The next morning it came back, closer still. By the fifth day, the drawing was just inches from the school entrance. The adult figure's mouth was now wider, stretching almost from one ear to the other, teeth drawn in jagged lines. The child figure was now behind it, smaller, almost fading. That was the day I noticed something else. The security cameras had gone out. Every feed facing the east and south courtyard was static. Greaves thought it was just a wiring issue. The district's maintenance tech was backlogged, but I knew something was wrong. That night, I stayed late. I wanted to catch who was doing it. Or what. I set up a folding chair behind the janitor's closet window with a clear view of the east courtyard. I waited from 10 p.m. to nearly 3 a.m. Nothing. No footsteps. No figures. No chalk. But when I finally gave up and walked outside to go home, it was there. Fresh, right beneath the gym exit, still wet from pressure, like it had just been drawn. And I swear to God, I felt a breeze rush past me like someone running. But no one was there. The drawing kept coming back. Every single night. By the second week, we had nearly a dozen of them. The teachers started noticing. Some of the kids got scared. But every time we cleaned it, it just reappeared somewhere new, closer to the classroom windows, always facing inward, always smiling. Then, it followed me home. I live in a small one-story place out in Calhoun Hills, about 15 minutes from the school. Thursday morning, March 23rd, I opened my front door to grab the paper and saw it, the chalk figure, on the walkway leading to my porch. Same armless shape, same crooked legs. Only now its smile had little dashes above it. Eyes, and they were drawn to look up directly at me. I froze. I must have stood there a full minute before I grabbed the hose. I sprayed and sprayed. The chalk didn't smear. It didn't move. It just sank deeper like it was etched into the concrete. It took me 20 minutes with a metal scraper to finally get off. And when I went inside, my hallway smelled like wet cement. That night I had a dream. A child's voice whispering, "He's almost inside." I woke up drenched in sweat, the TV static hissing in the background, though I hadn't turned it on. And across the floor, just behind the couch, faint white footprints. Small, like a child's, made of chalk dust. I tried telling the police. They shrugged it off as vandalism. Maybe teenagers. But they didn't come inside. They didn't see what I saw that night. On my bedroom wall. Above my headboard. Drawn in white smudged lines. The smiling figure. Upside down. I left my house for the weekend. Packed a bag. Turned off the power. And stayed in a motel 20 miles away. I didn't tell anyone. Not my neighbor, not my boss. I just needed to test something. Would the drawings follow me? Friday night was quiet. I didn't sleep. Every sound in the motel, the rustle of cars outside, the humming of the vending machine, made me jolt. But no chalk, no whispering, no smile. I allowed myself to breathe. Until Saturday morning, when I stepped out of the motel room, just outside the door, 3 new chalk drawings, all in a perfect line, leading from the street up to where I slept. Each of them the same smiling figure. Each of them drawn in front of a different door. And only mine was open. I came back home Sunday night. I wish I could say I was brave about it, that I wanted to confront whatever was doing this. But the truth is, I was just tired of running. I'd scrubbed, burned, washed, and scraped away the drawings at school and home for almost 2 weeks. And yet, they kept coming. Worse, they were changing. More than once, I saw pieces of them move between mornings. A leg bent differently. A second mouth added. The child figure became a shadow, half-formed, like whoever was drawing them had started and changed their mind midway. And then something truly horrifying happened. The chalk started appearing inside. At first, I thought I tracked it in. My boots were always coated with powder. I figured the smudges on my hardwood floor were my own fault. But then I noticed the patterns. Handprints. 4-fingered. Small. Dragging along the walls like someone trying to hold balance. And those marks? They weren't made with real chalk. They were made with something oily, something that stained the wood permanently. At school, things weren't better. Mrs. Kimball, the art teacher, approached me in the cafeteria one morning. She said one of her 6th graders, Maria Santos, had drawn something during class. It was familiar. When she showed me the page, I almost dropped my coffee. It was the same armless figure. Only this time, the child next to it wasn't a stick figure. It was a fully rendered drawing of a girl. Brown hair, red shoes, Maria's exact school outfit. And underneath it, she had written, "This is what I look like in my dreams." I asked her about it. She wouldn't speak at first, just stared down at the table. But finally, in a whisper barely audible, she said, "He told me to draw it. He said it makes him real." I felt cold. I called her parents. Left messages. No answer. Maria didn't come back to school after that day. The school counselor said her family had moved suddenly. No warning. No forwarding address. But I found a chalk drawing on the back of her chair. The figure. This time it had 4 heads, all smiling. That night I heard scratching under my bed. At first I thought it was the radiator, or maybe a raccoon in the crawl space. But it didn't sound like an animal. It sounded like someone with chalk pressing hard against the floor, dragging it in slow, looping strokes. I forced myself to look, pulled the flashlight from the nightstand, got down on all fours, and shone the light underneath. Nothing, until I leaned closer and saw the white outline of a circle, drawn in chalk. Inside it, a stick figure lying down, head twisted backward, armless, smiling, exactly where I had been sleeping. The next day, I quit my job. I told Principal Greaves I had a family emergency out of state. He didn't ask many questions. But when I walked through the school parking lot for the last time, I looked back and saw something that made my stomach drop. Every square of the sidewalk leading from the main doors to my car had a different drawing. All variations of the same figure, but each one had a different face. Some were screaming. Some were laughing. One had no mouth at all. And as I passed each one, I felt something brush the back of my neck. That night, I boarded up my windows, covered every reflective surface. No mirrors, no screens. The chalk didn't come that night, but something else did. At 2:44 a.m., I woke up to a child's voice. We're inside now. Then silence. Until the next morning when I found the chalk again. Not outside, not on the walls, but on the ceiling. A full-body sketch of the smiling figure, directly above my bed, its mouth wide open, and inside its mouth, my face, drawn in exact, agonizing detail. I've stopped sleeping altogether. My fridge hums constantly. Lights flicker. The shadows move even when I don't. Last night, I saw someone walk past my window. A child, barefoot, white dust on the soles of their feet. When I opened the door, there was no one there. Only a new drawing, a smiling stick figure, holding something that looked like a knife. I don't know what this thing is, but I know this. It's learning. The drawings aren't just pictures. They're blueprints, and they're building something, line by line, curve by curve, drawing after drawing, and when they finish, it'll be real. I haven't spoken to anyone in days. Not because I can't, but because everyone I try to reach is gone. Literally, gone. Like they never existed. It started with Maria, the little girl from the art class. After her drawing of the chalk figure, she vanished from school. The counselor said she moved. But after I quit and started obsessively tracking everything, going through school rosters, district records, emails, I couldn't find any proof she was ever enrolled. Her name wasn't in the directory, not in the yearbook, not even in the attendance system. Even her drawing, which I had folded and kept in my coat pocket, was gone. The paper was still there, but it was blank. No figure, no smile, no red-shoed girl, just an old sheet of printer paper. Then it was Mr. Kersey, the night guard at the school. I had spoken to him a few times about the courtyard drawings. He once told me over coffee that he thought it was some kind of ritual. That was just 2 weeks ago. Now, nothing. His number is disconnected. His locker at the school is empty. The front office doesn't recognize his name. Greaves just gave me a blank look when I mentioned him. I even went to his apartment complex. There's no record of anyone named Kersey ever living there. It's as if the chalk is erasing people. I tried reaching out to an old friend, someone I haven't talked to in years, Darla, from back in Baton Rouge. I just needed a voice that would believe me. She answered. Thank God, I thought. I could hear her dog barking in the background. She laughed, said I sounded like I hadn't slept in a year. I told her about the drawings, the child, the figure, the dreams. She listened quietly. Then, in the middle of my ramble, she asked, "Who's drawing you now?" I stopped. "What? Who's drawing you, Thomas?" I tried to answer, but her voice, her tone, had changed. It wasn't her voice anymore. It was a child's voice. The line went dead. I called back. Number no longer in service. I searched for her online. No social media. No phone records. I found an obituary from 2013. It said Darla Marin had died of carbon monoxide poisoning 12 years ago. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's real anymore. But here's what I do know. The drawings are getting more detailed. And they're not just appearing on sidewalks anymore. They're on paper, mirrors, dust on my windows, even inside my refrigerator, scrawled in condensation on the inside of the glass. One night, I found one drawn inside my pillowcase. Not underneath, not on the fabric, inside, and it was of me asleep. The figure standing beside me, its hand reaching down, holding something long and thin. A piece of chalk. On Sunday night, I made a mistake. I tried to destroy one of the drawings with fire. I had collected dozens of photos, sketches, printed security screenshots, all of them depicting the same figure. I built a fire in the metal barrel behind my house and tossed them in. They burned. The flames curled the paper, turned it black and crisp. But as the last drawing turned to ash, I screamed. A sound exploded in my head. A high-pitched shriek like chalk across a blackboard, but inside my ears, inside my skull. I collapsed in the dirt, clutching my head, until it finally stopped. When I sat up, my skin was bleeding. Tiny slices all down my forearms and chest. And behind me, on the side of my house, a new drawing. Massive, white, fresh. The figure's smile was wider than ever. But now it had something new hands. Each finger ended in a long, narrow point. Each point was tipped in red. I thought maybe it was just me, that I was the target. But I've started watching the news. A small town in Ohio, chalk figures found on every road, doors marked with smiling faces. Local authorities baffled. A school in Missouri shut down after students reported hearing scraping noises in their walls. One girl went missing. Only thing left behind was a drawing of her face, smeared across the blacktop in white powder. The anchor on the news called it a hoax. But I know it's not. It's spreading. The drawings are appearing all over as if they're leaking out of some other place. On Tuesday night, I found one in my bathtub, not on the porcelain, in the water, floating in chalky streaks, swirling on the surface like oil. When I reached in, it moved. The lines swam into shape, the figure's head. Its smile broke open into a scream. I yanked the plug and watched it swirl away. But that night, I heard something whispering from the drain. I still hear it sometimes. Words I don't understand, like the sound of something being sketched over and over. I don't sleep anymore. I keep every light on, windows covered. I haven't left the house in over a week. I write everything down, but the words change when I'm not looking. Sometimes, entire pages are just chalky smudges. One night, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. I was still there, but the face wasn't quite mine. The smile was too wide, the teeth too perfect. This thing, whatever it is, it wants to be remembered. And the only way it knows how is through chalk, through drawings. But more than that, I think it's trying to replace us, one sketch at a time. And I think I'm next, because this morning when I woke up, there was a drawing on the inside of my eyelid. I'm not kidding. When I blinked, I saw it, just for a second. That smile, that face, and in the reflection of my microwave door, for just a heartbeat, I wasn't standing alone. I finally left the house. I couldn't stay there anymore, not after what happened with the Isla drawing. Not after seeing my reflection smile without me. I packed a single bag, left the lights on, left the water running in the sink. Something about the sound made me feel less alone. I didn't even lock the door. There's nothing left to protect. Not anymore. I drove north with no real plan, just the terrible sense that I had to get as far as possible from anything familiar. The chalk drawings have been appearing everywhere I went. School, home, motel, even my dreams. But something changed when I crossed into Larchfield County. That town wasn't on any of the maps I checked. The GPS just showed a blank patch between two highways with a single blinking pin. Larchfield, unverified location. I almost kept driving, but just as I passed the town sign, weather-worn wood with peeling paint, my engine died. All power gone. Dashboard black. Headlights off. Not even hazard lights. The car just gave up. That's when I saw it. A small white smudge on the inside of my windshield. I wiped it with my thumb. A chalk smile. And above it, 3 words carved lightly into the glass. Almost done drawing. The town was nearly empty. Boarded up houses. Cracked sidewalks. Weeds tall enough to reach the street signs. It looked like a place that hadn't been alive for years. And yet, chalk drawings were everywhere. Not just on sidewalks now. They covered walls, porches, even inside window panes. Some are fresh, bright. Others have been scrubbed away, only faint outlines remaining. There was one particularly large mural across a decaying red brick building. It showed a field of children, all holding hands. In the center, towering over them, was him, the smiling figure, larger than life, mouth open in a scream, arms raised to the sky, drawn without elbows or fingers, just smooth, curved limbs. Beneath, it was scrawled, "He was here before we were." I found a library still barely standing. Most of the shelves had collapsed. Water damage warped every book I touched. But in the back, behind a sliding wooden panel, I found something that explained everything. A leather-bound journal. No name, no title, no date. Just pages upon pages filled with frantic writing. And sketches. So many sketches. Each one of him, in different poses, different settings, with different children. Most of the writing was rambling, almost incoherent. But one entry was burned into my brain. We thought they were just drawings, just things the orphans made to keep their minds busy. But every morning, the figures changed. More detailed, more human. One day, one of the kids disappeared. We found her face drawn in the hallway, perfectly smiling. Her body was never found. I think he takes her shape once it's drawn. I think the chalk lets him in. Another line, scrawled violently across 2 torn pages. Do not erase the smile. If you erase it, IT moves to your face. I stayed the night in that ruined library. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I was safer near the journal. But around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of laughter. Not children laughing. Not really. It sounded like chalk grinding against concrete, but warped, stretched into something trying to sound like laughter. I grabbed the flashlight and turned it toward the staircase. And I saw it. Him, at the bottom of the stairs, drawn across the floorboards. And yet watching me. The lines of chalk shifted, curling slightly upward as I stared. His smile widened. I ran out the side door and didn't stop until I collapsed behind a burned-down gas station. And even there, on the wall of the ice machine, was another drawing. But this one, it was of me, I've learned one thing. The more you notice the drawings, the more real they become. The more you look, the more he sees you. And if you look long enough, you start to disappear. Not all at once, piece by piece, like chalk blown by the wind. When I tried to call my brother, just to hear someone who still knew me, the line connected, but no one spoke. Then, just as I was about to hang up, a voice whispered, "We're almost finished with you, Thomas. We've drawn your teeth now. We're working on your eyes next. Don't blink, or they'll look wrong." I don't think I'm entirely real anymore. I mean, I bleed. I cry. I still feel pain. But this morning, when I looked in a mirror in the diner bathroom, I realized something was missing. My reflection didn't have shadow. It was just me, floating in the glass. When I turned my head, the image lagged behind, like it wasn't ready yet, like it was still being drawn. I don't think the chalk is just a symbol. I think it's a tool, a ritual, an invitation. Each drawing, each mark gives him a little more shape, gives him a new place to stand, a new person to wear. I've started seeing strangers with chalk dust under their fingernails. Store clerks, children, once even a priest. They smile a little too long, blink a little too slow. They ask questions like, "What do you dream of, Thomas? Do you remember being erased? Have you smiled today? Tonight, I found something outside the diner, a final drawing, done in perfect chalk. Me, sitting at the counter, smiling. No mouth, just a white curve carved into the face. Above it, he lives in lines. He breathes through dust. He remembers you. And then, one last line left to draw. I don't know how I made it back. My hands shook the entire drive. I kept feeling like someone was in the back seat, just out of view in the rearview mirror. Once or twice I caught movement, a small smile flickering behind my shoulder. But I didn't stop. I drove until I reached the place where all of this began. My childhood home. I hadn't been back in 20 years. After my parents died, the house sat empty until some cousin sold it off, or tried to. As far as I know, it never sold. I hadn't thought about that place in ages, until I realized. The first chalk drawing I ever saw wasn't at school. It was on the wall of my childhood bedroom, a faint white figure, smiling. The house was quiet when I arrived. Dust lined every surface. Furniture half covered with rotting sheets. The windows were so grimy that daylight barely filtered through, casting everything in a yellowish gloom. But the smell, like wet chalk, was unmistakable. In my old bedroom, I found the mark. Still there, drawn on the far wall, just above where my pillow would have been. It was faded, almost erased by time, but unmistakably him. The original smile. The first line. My breath caught. I don't know how I ever forgot it. And then something clicked in my mind. I drew it. I remember it now. I must have been 6, maybe 7. I was scared of sleeping alone, so I used to draw silly faces on the wall to watch me while I slept. But one night, I drew a figure. A tall one, smiling, faceless except for the mouth. I remember waking up the next morning to find it changed. The smile had curled differently. The lines were cleaner than a child could draw, like someone had perfected it while I slept. I ran out of the room screaming, and my parents painted over the wall. But I guess not completely. Not enough. It started with me. I let him in, and every drawing since then has been like, echoing the original, refining it, spreading it, giving him more detail, more reach, more life. In the attic, I found the old box of my childhood things. Sketchbooks, toys, crayon drawings. But at the bottom, wrapped in a plastic grocery bag, was something I didn't remember. A single chalkboard slate. like the ones kids used in the 1800s. But the drawing on it was fresh, the same figure. Only now, it had my eyes, drawn in soft, dusty white. Perfect, recognizable. I dropped the slate, and it didn't break. Instead, the image moved ever so slightly. The chalk dust shifted, as if blown by invisible breath. The smile widened, and from the stairwell, I heard the sound of chalk scraping wood. I ran, but not before I grabbed that slate. It felt like the last piece of the puzzle. Like maybe, just maybe I could end this. Back at the car, I placed the slate in the passenger seat and started the engine. The stereo kicked on by itself, even though I hadn't touched it. A child's voice crackled through the speakers. Only one line left, Thomas. The one that draws the inside. I kept driving until I reached the old chalk quarry on the edge of town. It's been abandoned since the 80s. Just a deep, white pit surrounded by rusted equipment and yellowing signs warning about landslides. I remember coming here once on a school trip. The guide said something strange that stuck with me. Every line you draw is just broken stone. Every shape is a whisper of what came before. Now I know what he meant. The drawings are voices. Stone ground to dust. Calling him out, I walked to the edge of the quarry, the slate under my arm, and I screamed into the pit. I screamed everything. That I was sorry. That I wanted to take it back. That I never meant for him to spread. The wind held up in reply. And then, on the opposite ridge, I saw him. Tall, white, smiling, made entirely of chalk, like a statue that could walk. He didn't move, but the ground shook as if he had taken a step. The slate vibrated in my hand, and then it cracked. A single fissure across the smile. The eyes blurred, and the voice returned. Not from the radio, not from the wind, from inside my own mouth. A whisper that didn't feel like mine. You were the first. You will be the last. Finish the line. I don't remember what happened next. Just flashes. My hand against stone. Chalk dust in my eyes. And then silence. I woke in a hospital 3 days later. They said I'd been found wandering the edge of the quarry, covered in dust, eyes red and bleeding. They said I kept repeating the same sentence over and over. He's done drawing now. But here's the thing. Since that day, I haven't seen a single drawing. No more chalk figures. No more faces in the condensation. No more whispering drains. They stopped. Completely. Like something was finished. But I still carry the slate. Even though it's cracked beyond recognition. Even though the image is long gone. Because every now and then, when I close my eyes at night, I see it again. A fresh line. Soft and white. Drawing across the inside of my eyelids. I think he's still there. Inside me. Waiting. And someday, someone else will pick up a piece of chalk and start the next line. I've stopped running. Because I finally understand. You can't outrun something that was drawn inside you. You can't hide from a face you helped complete. You can't erase something that remembers your hand, your breath, your fear. You can't even close your eyes. Because he draws there too. I stayed quiet for 2 months after the quarry. I locked myself away. No phones. No mirrors. No screens. No chalk. But the drawings didn't need chalk anymore. One morning I woke up and found handprints smeared in condensation on the inside of my windows, my own handprints, but with the fingers drawn too long, curled in a way I'd never do. Another time, I noticed the folds of my bedsheet had formed a face. A grin, wide and faint, not like pareidolia. No, it stayed for hours, even after I tried to smooth it out. But the worst came on the 48th night. Well, I felt something being traced along my spine as I slept. A fingertip, or maybe chalk. And then I woke to a thin white smile drawn in powder along the curve of my back. I shaved my head that morning. I wanted to see if it had happened there too. And it had. He was carving into me. I checked myself into the psychiatric ward voluntarily. Told them I was afraid I'd hurt myself, that I was hallucinating. And for the first few days, it helped. No chalk, no drawings, no dreams, just sterile white rooms and the hum of distant fluorescent lights. Until the nurse brought me my lunch one day and left a plastic spoon on the tray. I used it to eat, and when I put it down, it had a face, smiling, drawn into the shallow dip of the bowl. No ink, no scratches, just present, etched into existence without a tool. The doctors thought I was experiencing a delusion with tactile hallucinations. They prescribed haloperidol, then risperidone, then quetiapine. None of it worked. The drawings only got bolder, more intricate. Now they appeared in shadow, in breath, in the soft grain of wood. Sometimes when I blink, the world freezes for a second, and I see chalk outlines around everything. Like the whole world has been sketched, me included. Like I'm a line drawing pretending to be flesh. I started dreaming in third person, watching myself move. But with every dream, there's less of me. My face fades. My limbs become stiff. And he's always behind me now, just out of frame. Sometimes I think he's holding my hand. Sometimes I think I am him. They released me, said I was stabilized. But I think they just couldn't stand how the walls of my room started to collect smudges at night. Every morning, there were new white lines, curving, smiling. Once, I wrote stop in black marker across the tile. Next morning, beneath it, someone wrote, "You drew the first line. Let US finish the last." I went back to the house again. I don't know why. Maybe I hoped returning to the beginning would end it. The place had decayed even more. Floorboards warped, air thick with mold and time. I brought a single match. One flame. I lit the corner of that old chalk drawing in my room, the original one. Watched the smoke curl, the line twist as it burned. But as the fire spread, the smile stayed intact. Didn't burn, didn't fade. Just smiled wider. And I swear for one terrible second, it opened its eyes. I ran. But the match was still in my hand, and part of the sleeve caught. I fell. My skin scorched. They found me on the lawn, unconscious. A neighbor said I was shouting at the smoke. I was hospitalized again. Bandages covering half my body. Skin pink and tight. But that's when it started happening again. Chalk lines under the bandages. Perfect curves. Smiles. Fingertips drawn into the muscle. I saw it in the mirror 2 nights ago. A line running from the corner of my mouth to the side of my cheek. Not a scar. A chalk mark. I tried washing it. Rubbing it raw. It didn't fade. When I turned my head, I saw the other side forming too. Symmetrical, intentional. He's finishing me, line by line, smile by smile. Yesterday, I found my reflection moving slower than me, a half second behind. When I blink, it blinks too, but not always at the same time. Sometimes, it doesn't blink at all. It just smiles. Waiting. I think I know what the final line is. It's not on paper. Not on walls or windows. It's inside. It's the moment you stop knowing whether you're the one looking or being drawn. This is my last entry. Not because I'm giving up, but because he doesn't need me to write anymore. He's already written me. Every bone, every breath, every silence between words. If you're reading this and you've ever seen a chalk smile that wasn't there before, erase it if you want. Paint over it. Burn it. But know this, it's not where the drawing is that matters. It's where it's going next. And it always goes inside. If you see a reflection that doesn't quite follow. If you feel a curve of white under your skin. If you blink and the world pauses a second too long, it means he started drawing you too. Don't scream. That's what gives him the mouth. And once he has the mouth, he never stops smiling.